I'm going to do a tutorial here and show you some of the different techniques and different ways that we use the grunge textures and brushes. Specifically today we are going to be using the quarantine collection that Sam has put together while she is quarantined in China with her two oldest children. She photographed a lot of the textures around here, and while they are wonderful for this type of work, they're actually pretty unpleasant, things like cracks in the wall and water damage and such. So we're going to go ahead and just play with this and have some fun. Key here is basically just to have fun. Each image is subjective, so it's different images are going to look better with more, some are going to look better with less. And it's also subjective to the artist as to what you like and what your personal taste is. So just be flexible and have fun and just keep changing it up until you get exactly what you're looking for. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to my layers palette, and I'm going to go down to the bottom and click the button and create a new layer. The reason I do that is because everything I do I want to be on a separate layer. I don't want it to be affecting my original image, because that way if I don't like something, instead of having to start completely over, I can just throw away one layer and go from there. So I'm going to create that new layer and start with some of these brushes that we've got. As you can see, we've got a lot of different fun ones. Something that's fun is in some of the samples you'll see specifically we've told you which ones we used. So if you hover your cursor over the thumbnail in your brushes palette, it'll show you specifically the file name, so you know which brush that we've used. The one I want to start with is down here. It is a fabric pattern. It's called Fabric 2 pattern. So I'm just going to click my brush and go over here, and since I've already got a new layer, I'm just going to stamp that down once. As you can see, it does not cover the whole image, and but I do want it to, so because it's on a new layer, the beauty of that is I can also transform it and distort it and get it how I want. I'm going to press Command T on my Mac. It's Control T on a PC, and that'll bring up the transform handle so that you can manipulate it. I'm going to just scooch it up here in the corner, and then I'll grab the bottom right corner and I'm just going to drag it. And I want it to cover the whole image, so I'm just going to drag it all the way to the bottom. As you can see, it kind of distorted it. That's okay, because I just want the texture. Hit enter to apply it. Obviously I don't want it that dark, so I'm going to layers palette, and I'm going to start changing the layer mode. If you press down the button, it'll do the drop down menu, and I usually start with overlay. It'll give me some kind of an idea. It usually changes it the most initially. I'm going to go ahead and try some of the other ones, see if I can find one I like better. Multiply is one that I like a lot too. As you can see, that just made it a little darker, so that's definitely not what I was going for. So I'll go down here and try Soft Light. That one's similar to the overlay, but as you can see, it's a little softer and a little lighter, and I do like that one. So I'm going to leave it there, but it's a little dark, so the next thing I'm going to do is change my layer opacity. And you can use the slider here, and I'll just drag it down until I kind of find what I like. That's approximately 50%. Take it down a little more to about 30% or so. And those are the two major techniques, honestly, that I use for these images, is layer mode and layer opacity. So just play with those a lot. I've got it down here. I like the opacity. I like the overlay mode, but it, as you can see, it covers a little, cuts into her face a little bit, and it's got little dots on her face. That's okay. That's not a bad thing. Again, this is subjective. I want to take it out of her face a little bit, so I'm going to put a layer mask on. It's down here at the bottom of my layers palette, and then I'm going to select the brush tool again, but this time instead of using a texture brush, although you can, and I do that a lot, I'm just going to select a soft round one because I just want to lightly brush the texture out of her face. I use all of my brushes on pen pressure. That way I can control how much or how little it is taken away or put down by how hard I'm pressing with my pen. If you don't have a pen, if you're using a mouse, you can always change the opacity of your brush up here in the top toolbar, and that'll do the same thing. I'm going to make the brush a little bigger, and I'm going to brush out her arm a little bit because I don't want her to have polka dot arms. But again, I've left some of it in the side here, as you can see. and I'm just taking out the bulk of it. The next thing I want to try, I think, is to use one of those overlay textures, and I've got a couple here that I've already selected. The door stain is one of my favorite ones. Isn't that nice? These make for great textures and overlays, but definitely not for great living conditions. I'm going to select and drag this this overlay into my image by holding down Command and Shift, and then I'll just drag it in, and what that does is it drops it directly into the center of the image. I'm going to use the Transform tool again to stretch it because I just want it to cover the whole image. I'm going to do it from the bottom, hit Enter to apply, and I'm going to start with the layer modes again. I'm going to try up here. I usually, like I said, go to overlay first because it tends to give me what I like, and I do like that. That gives it a fun look. You can leave it here if that's what you want because it gives it that kind of that funky orange glow, or if you want to drop it down a little bit so it's not quite so prominent in the stains here, the dark stains, you can drop your opacity down. I'm going to take it down a little bit to about 50%, 55%, and leave it there so it's not quite so heavy. And I'm pretty happy with that, so let's go ahead and put another texture on it. And this is how I do it. I just lay them over and over and over each other until I get the look that I want. This other one that I really like is called Windowsill Stains. It makes for a really great texture, but it's pretty disgusting considering it is actually a windowsill where someone is habitating, but again, it makes for great imaging. So I'm going to drag this in. Since this file of the windowsill texture is horizontal and our image of Katie is vertical, I'm going to go ahead and rotate it. You can do that by going up to your file menu, going Image, Rotate Canvas, and you can go counterclockwise or clockwise. It's totally up to you. It depends on which part of the image you want up on top. And I'm going to rotate it. Then I'm going to hold down Command and Shift again, click and drag it into our image of Katie. And then I'm just going to transform it, that Control T or Command T, and make it so it covers the whole image, and hit Enter to apply, and go back over. I'm going to go over to our overlay. Then I'm going to go over to our layer palette again and play with the layer modes. I'm going to go to overlay. That tends to be the one I like best. And I actually like that. The only thing I don't like about what we've done here is the spots on her skin. They look like bug bites, and while she is being bug bitten all over in China, we don't want to show that in the image. So I'm going to put a mask on by going to my layer palette down here at the bottom, clicking the layer mask, and then I'll just brush out her skin, just her skin. And you can see we've left some of the pattern here on the rest of it, and that's okay. I just wanted to take out the major spots. And again, using my brush on pen pressure really helps. The last thing I want to do to this image is put another brush on it. We have some of the brushes in here are different Chinese symbols because they are in China. And I'm going to put one of those over her image. I'm going to put a new layer on, again, by going to my layer palette, clicking the Create a New Layer. And then I'm going to select the brush that I want. And if you hover your cursor over the thumbnail, like we talked about, it'll tell you what they say. This one's hope, this one's faith, love, courage, and all important, especially when you're hungry in quarantine, pizza. I'm going to go ahead and select hope because she hopes she gets out of here soon and is not having to spend the rest of her trip stuck in this less than pleasant hotel. I'm going to use my bracket on my keyboard to make my brush bigger. I'm just going to go ahead and stamp it on there and change the layer mode again. I changed it to soft light. I kind of liked that one because it allows some of the image to show through as well. It's still too prominent. I didn't want it to be quite that dark, so I'm going to go ahead and change the opacity of that layer and just bring it down so that it's kind of there. It's subtle, but it's there. And I am happy with that, so I'm going to go ahead and leave it here. The thing I also do when I save it is I save it in layers in case at any point in time I want to go back and change something, take it away. I can still do that. I'm going to go ahead and save. So I'm going to go up to File and say Save As. And I'm just going to save this to my desktop. And I save my layered files as a PSD. And after I save it in layers, I'm going to go ahead and flatten it. I'm going to go back to my layers palette, click the flyout menu in the top right hand corner, and select flatten image. And then I'll go ahead and do save as again. This time I'm going to save it as a TIFF. And say OK. And we are all done. And there is your fun grunged up image.